Hello and welcome to the Active Batch DP Champions video. I'm Trevor Whittaker in Technical Solutions and I'll be taking you through this session which will show you how to use the DP templates that we have in place within Active Batch to enable you to automate your Dimensions MRS and DMS scripts on the back of a Dextap extraction. There's many more uses for Active Batch already being used and potentially that you could use for other activity around automation, but hopefully this session will give you a good introduction and will also help you understand how you can replace any existing Poet functionality. We see Active Batch as providing two main benefits over Poet, one of which is visibility. So Active Batch comes with a desktop tool, an admin tool that allows you to set up all your automation and to monitor it ongoing. It also has good stability. There is a queue management system which will ensure that there'll be no problems even when executing the largest and more complex of jobs. So Active Batch is a tool that we've been using for a couple of years now. It's an off-the-shelf product and it's something that we've been finding has really good potential for automation. So in this session, I'll be taking you through that admin GUI and then showing you how to use the DP templates to set up a dimensions extraction. I'll actually do a demo where I'll execute a Dextap job, go through a couple of iterations which will show you how to understand the email alerts that happen and also some of the error handling. Then I'll move on to change management, which shows you once you've done all your testing and you're ready to move to production, how you then move that activity in your Active Batch automation into the live environment, and then just a few other points to round up. Okay, so this is the admin tool in Active Batch. I've connected to the dev environment here, and then in the jobs, folders and plans folder, you'll see there's a series of subfolders which have been set up for different operating brands or different regions and groups, and you will have already been given access to at least one of these groups where you can do your work and set up your production environment. I'll be using the admin folder for this demo because that's where I have access to, and I'll also be referring to the templates folder where you can find a copy of the DP templates. So the DP templates themselves, so we just expand that folder. There's two sets of templates. These are template plans. This little icon here is a plan. A plan in Active Batch is a collection of one or more jobs. The jobs are the individual items and objects that get executed within the Active Batch environment. This one I'll be using standard templates. We've also got a version of standard templates for the specific use case of sending data to a scribe. So that's open-end DAU files being FTP'd off to the language logic system. But the standard templates are here. So the first thing I need to do is take a copy of these templates. So I'll just right click on that. Just wait for that to come up. There we go. Copy. And then in the admin folder, I'm going to create this. I've got an old one there, so I'll just get rid of that one. Need to put a reason in. Okay. And then I'll right click, say new folder. So Active Batch demo. And then within that folder, I can then paste that copy of the templates. There we go. Just need to wait for that to finish. Okay. I'm also going to rename those templates. And I'll just give that the same name. Just wait for it. There we go. Active Batch demo. So now we have a plan, which is a copy of the templates called Active Batch demo within a folder called Active Batch demo. I'll just expand that and we'll see within the template plan, there are 6 template jobs. we have two run jobs, run DMS, run MRS. So quite obviously that will run a Dimensions DMS script. That one will run a Dimensions MRS script. It also has, each one of the run jobs has a log equivalent, which you should always run immediately after any run job. And what that will do is that will do the error handling. It will interrogate the log coming out of the run step and be able to tell you accurately whether that script succeeded or if there was a failure. There's two other jobs which are to do with the housekeeping around Dextap. The first one here is unzip Dextap data. That does what it says. So whenever you get an extraction of data out of Dextap, it will be a zip file. So that's a step that will do the unzipping for you. And there's one at the end which does some file management around tidying up those files that have been unzipped. So that's what you'll run at the end of your job. Okay, so there's two things you need to do whenever you take a copy of the standard templates, and that is to change the default account and the default queue. So every job within ActiveBatch has an associated user account, which tells ActiveBatch what credentials to execute any scripts within it, and also you associate it with a queue, because we have different ActiveBatch queues. So that ActiveBatch queue is where the job will actually run. They are location based. We've currently got one in Hyderabad, one in Pune, one in Slough, and one in Naperville. You can see here I've got the job, the template run DMS, and that is associated with the Hyderabad queue, and it's currently pointing at a user account in the templates subfolder. So because I'm working in the admin folder, I need to change that from templates to admin. Similarly, whichever one of these subfolders you're working in, you'll need to make sure that you do that same change to that local folder. And if you need to change the queue for one that's closer to your own location, then you can also do that as well. You can do this just by clicking on each individual item and changing. You can see here the different queues I have available, and similarly for the account. But there's a much quicker way of doing that because I've got 6 jobs here and I want to make the same change to them all. So the way that I can do that is if I just close this down, I go back to the plan and right click and say view browse all. It'll bring up a list of those jobs here. I can then highlight them all, and what I can do is drag that. So what I'm looking to do is change all of those to my dev admin account. So I'll just go back over here again. I've got them highlighted, drag into there, and it says, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to change your user account to dev? Yes, I do. And what it'll do then is change all the 6 jobs in one go. So a much quicker way of doing that test. It's important that you do this, otherwise you'll run into problems with permissions. So always make sure that you change those accounts to the local. If I wanted to do the same and change the queue, you'll see the queues. There's a list of queues at the top level folder. You can see the 4 available here. Please don't use the AWS one. That's just a cloud one that we have for testing. So you can see that there's 2 in India, 1 in the US, 1 in the UK. So you do the same and drag it into there. I'm not going to do that for this because for the purposes of the demo, I'll be using Hyderabad file share. Okay, so I've done that. So what else do I need to do to my ActiveBatch job to get it ready for running? Well, what I'll need to do is tell it what dimension scripts I need to run. Again, for the purposes of the demo, I'll be running a DMS script, but you can run as many DMS scripts or MRS scripts as you want. The templates come with one job for running a DMS and one for running an MRS. If you've got an automation that needs, say, 2 DMS files being run, you just take another copy of the run DMS. So it's a copy, you'd have an individual job and log, a run and log job for each dimension script you're going to run. And you can easily just take copies using just standard copy and paste. But this demo is just going to be a DMS run. So I'm just going to disable the run MRS. So I've just right click there and say disable. I could delete it, but I don't know, I might want to use it again at another time. So I'll just make that disabled. So I'll just say disable indefinitely, okay. Just wait for that to go. There you go. You can see that the little icon has changed from gold to grey to denote I've done that. I'm going to do the same to the log MRS job as well. There we go. Okay, just wait for that to come through. Okay, so I'm just looking to run one DMS script. So next thing I have to do is tell ActiveBatch where to find my DMS script and what it's called. So to do that, if I right click on the job, and you see all the various properties associated with this job, I want to change or add a variable. So here we see variables. The templates come with a variable called script name. These variables in ActiveBatch act as text substitution. So when you execute the job, it'll replace whatever value you've put in here wherever it finds the variable name script name. So I just need to edit this variable. Just wait for that to come up. Okay, so you can see that the template just says replace this text with the name and location of your DMS file. So I've just got a copy of it. I'll just get it on my clipboard and I'll come back into here and replace it. So I'm using a CFS4 file share for my demo. You can see that it sits in this folder here and it's called test1.dms. So okay to that and okay there. And then if we open up this job just by double clicking on it, you can see here that a job in ActiveBatch is made up of a series of job steps. So there's a series of job steps here. The first one is checking that the file exists. So it's saying script name. So when it executes, it'll substitute the script name with what I've just put in as the variable. And then it will run through. It'll eventually get to this part here, which is the shell command step. So if I just expand this, you'll see that this is where it's running the DMS command line runner, dmsrun.exe. It will substitute in the script name. There's currently also two parameters which are being passed into the script. So these are parameters that are coming out of Dextap. So the first one, output location, is the folder where the Dextap extracted file can be found, the extracted zip file. And the second one is what's the name of that zip file. These are obviously two really key bits of information for any extraction and automation coming out of Dextap. There is a lot of other variables that are available. It's exactly the same list that was available for Poet. If you need to see that full list, it's in the user manual in the appendix. And if you want to add in more, you can just append using similar syntax to this line here. But I'm just happy with these two for the purposes of my demo. So I'm happy with that. So I've told ActiveBatch where my script is and what it's called. So the other thing I need to do in ActiveBatch is set up my workflow. So ActiveBatch enables you to structure your automation in the workflow, the flow of your automation in a very easy graphical way. So the way I do that is right click on the plan again and say, wait for the window to come up, view map. So the map will open up in the main window on the right here. And I'll just make that a little bit bigger. Just find the zoom. Okay, so here's my 6 jobs. You remember that I've got 2 which are grayed out, which I disabled. So I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna grab them and drag them out away over here. because I don't want to run that one. So what I'm going to do is just rearrange these jobs in the sequence that I want them to be executed. So the first thing I want to do is do my unzipping, followed by running my DMS script. So I'll put that underneath there. Then my log DMS script, and finally my tidy desktop files. So I've rearranged, but what I need to do now is tell ActiveBatch the actual sequence. So the way I do that is just click on the little icon here in the middle and drag it down, and you'll see that you get these little pink boxes. This will add what it calls a completion trigger, and I'm just going to go for the default, which is success. So, and it will put a little arrow in for me, a green arrow. So what that means is run this first job. If it's successful, go on and run the second job. So I'll just continue that for the other jobs. Say OK and OK. So you'll be able to see quite clearly now the flow of jobs, how it's going to execute those 4 jobs. One more thing I'll need to do is, as mentioned, the log step. The reason why this is here is so that ActiveBatch can decide whether the dimension script executed successfully or not. So I always want that one to run regardless of how the run DMS execution went. So what I'll do is add another trigger, another arrow, and make the constraint to be failure, which will do, it'll add in a red arrow as well. So what it's saying is, regardless of whether this run DMS job fails or succeeds, still run the DMS stage. Should always do that when you're linking the run and log parts of the template jobs together. Okay, so we've copied the DP templates. We've changed the user account. Optional step of also changing the queue. We've set up our workflow. We've decided how we want to structure those jobs, because in this example we've got one DMS script executing. There's no reason why you couldn't have multiple DMS, a combination of multiple DMS scripts and multiple MRS scripts together. But for this example, it's a simple DMS run. And the other thing we've done is told ActiveBatch where to find our DMS run. So now we've done all we need to do to tie it into a DexTap extraction. So the only other last little thing before I can move away to DexTap is just to click back on the plan, and you'll see down in here, this window down here, there's a properties window. One property is called the ID. So every object in ActiveBatch, be that a folder, a plan, a job, or even a queue or anything else, has a unique ID. So this particular one here, I'm just going to make a note of that, 3127194, because we're going to use that again in a minute. So if I just minimize these windows now, and I'm going to go off to DexTap. I'm using DexTap UK, but it works equally the same on the US version. So I'll just log in. I have a demo job already set up in here. I'm extracting, this is just a job I know exists on the Slough V live cluster. And I'm extracting to this CFS4, and that's just because I know I have access to that CFS, but equally you could extract to any one of those available CFS shares. I move down here, I've just got a basic extraction that's just going to pick out every 1 in 250 people, and that's just in the interests of time. And the way I link it to ActiveBatch is in the same way that you would have done for Poet, which is this option right at the bottom, which is add a URL. I'm just going to give it a name. The name doesn't matter too much. Not ever sure why that's there, but it is. And then I need to pick the extraction, the URL that will actually tell it where to that it's an ActiveBatch information. And let me just grab a copy of that. I've got it in here. Just put that into my clipboard. Go. I've got it here. This, you can find this again in the appendix in the DP user manual. Replace those 4 X's with that ID that I've just written down. So that's 3127194. Extra data, this is any, you can put in here in any string that you want. That string will be carried through into ActiveBatch and be available as a variable in the same way that we were using the variable earlier called script name. There'll be a variable called extra data, which will contain whatever you've typed in there. So that's a way that you can have multiple DexTap jobs, or lots and lots of different DexTap jobs, all going to the same ActiveBatch plan, but with having their unique piece of information, which you can use to help drive any bespoke automation. So that's it. If I queue the job and run it, what it's then going to do is go off to the queue, and then once the queue's finished, it's a bit big at the moment, but hopefully it won't take too long, and then it'll execute the dimensions job. Okay, so our job is executing now within DexTap. It's almost finished. There we go, it's finished. So we'll go straight back over to Add ActiveBatch, and you can see in this bottom right window, which is called Instances, we can see that our ActiveBatch demo plan is executing. If I expand that, it's running through each job in turn. It's not running the 2 that we told it not to, but so it's run the other 4. You can see they're all green. You can see it's all succeeded. ActiveBatch is happy, and everything seems to be working okay. Though there is an exit code description here, execute error. So we'll have to see what that is. We'll go to our inbox. In the inbox, we've got the standard completion notification that you get from DexTap. But we've also got an email from activebatch@kantar.com, and it's telling me ActiveBatch DMS runtime error. Okay, so it's telling me that there was a problem with my script. So this email was triggered from the log DMS stage. And the reason why ActiveBatch has got the run DMS item as green is because all ActiveBatch is doing is executing a line in a shell command, in a command prompt. And we've said to ActiveBatch, run this script using this executable and pass in these parameters. So, and ActiveBatch has done that. So as far as that job step's concerned, it's happy and it succeeded. So that's why we have to have the extra log step to check the actual details and actually separate what's in theory a successful execution to actually there's some problems with that DMS script. And what the email will do as well, which is a good feature, it will actually, if it thinks there's an error, it'll attach the log file. So this is the log file coming out of ActiveBatch, which will include the dimensions, the DMS log, and we can just go into here and we can see here error processing at line 61. So this enables us to flag an error and to do some debugging. And with this log file, DP teams don't necessarily need to go into the ActiveBatch GUI themselves, but they can look by using this information and then going off to look at their script. I've got a copy of my script over here on my file share, so I'll just bring it into TextPad. If you remember, it was line 61, so I'll go down there. And here you can see here, this is actually a deliberate error that I've put in. Just the name of this object is deliberately wrong. The idea is that you can do that to show you an error. So if I correct that error and make it the correct name of the object, what I can then do is go back to DexTap and execute the job again. And hopefully, all being well, it'll run through okay. Okay, so we've got our DexTap job almost completed now. Takes just under a minute usually, this one. Wait for that to finish. There we go. Let's go back to Active Batch. We've now got a second instance appeared, which is our second execution of this plan. And we'll just see again the first two stages have succeeded. Oh, there's still an error with the script. Let me just check what's going on. Go back to here. Oh yeah, I've just missed out the quote. There we go. Correct that error again, and we'll try one more time in Dextap. So let's just go back here again and cue that once more, and we'll just wait for that to run through. Okay, so our Dextap job is now completed. So we go back to the GUI. We've got our third execution. Here it is. It's just running through now. It's now just currently executing the DMS script. It's taking a little bit longer than the first two times, which is good because you can see here the duration of the run last time was less than 0.01 of a minute, which I guess is less than a second. That's looking much better. And run through. That's looking really good. Everything's green there in our latest execution, but it's also no exit code descriptions coming out of the log step. So that looks really good. So hopefully if we go back to our inbox now, we can see there it's just come in. We've got the usual Dextap extraction, but we've also got the email coming from Active Batch saying Active Batch job completed, DMS script success. So that's really good. It's told me script completed with no errors reported. So that at the start of the demo, I said that's where it gives us so much more visibility than compared to Poet. We can configure these email alerts to contain whatever text we want, whatever details. We can add attachments to these. We can send them to different people. We can decide to switch them off if it's successful and only email if there's a problem. That's all possible within the run and logs template steps. So, you know, start having a look at them and understanding what they do. That would be a really good idea. Just to show what it's actually done, we can go over here and we can see that this is my file that's been extracted out of Dextap. So this is the place where Dextap runs. My DMS script was just reading in the input DMS and creating an output DMS. So that's exactly what it's done here. It's just created me a new copy of a MDD and DDF. But of course, whatever your specific dimensions automation can be, whether that's creating tables, whether that's been creating reports or data feeds to go off somewhere, or whatever it is, any kind of data merging or cleaning, you can bring it all into this environment. Okay, so that's the basics on making use of the dimensions templates, the template plan that's there. So really encourage you to take a copy of those templates. You've also obviously you need to have your automation that you're planning to use within Active Batch set up. Certainly recommend that you do all the dimensions testing so that you're sure that your MRS scripts and your DMS scripts are doing what they should be doing in a local environment before you bring into Active Batch, and then you bring into Active Batch once you're actually ready to use the templates and the features that we've just seen. So once we've done that activity and we're happy that what we've got set up, our template plan is working as intended, we're able to then move from the dev environment over to the live environment. So you'll see here we've got a dev and a live environment. So the live environment has, I guess, two main differences to the dev. One is it's more secure. It has tighter security around it. There's a lot more control. It's not as easy to go in there and delete things and change things. It also has more dedicated infrastructure. So the queues that are dedicated to the live environment are able to handle a lot bigger volumes. The idea is that dev is there for your testing, for your demoing, and just making sure everything's working. But then when you're moving into production, you move everything to live. And the way that you can do moving content and syncing up content between dev and live is you can use the change management tool within Active Batch. So tools, change management. This is a pretty simple little extra GUI. You think of it as a left and a right, a target and a source. So you see here my source and my target. So what I would do in here, I'll just grab a copy of that. Just move that window out the way over here. What I will do is grab a copy of the names. So we have got here. So in my source, I would have Active Batch Dev Kantar. Again, this information is in the appendices of the DP user manual again. And then my target is my live. So I'll just, nope, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is connect there. Okay, so it's connected. Just make the window a bit bigger. So on the left, I have dev. On the right, I have live. So what I do is find my content. So in here, if you remember, I'm working in admin. So I want to go into admin. And where's my folder? It's TW and Active Batch Demo. So in here, I check the box Active Batch Demo. And then what it will do is it will sync up. And if it's not already there, it will copy it into the right, which is the live environment. If it is already there, it will check the contents of one or the other, and it will sync up any changes and updates you've made in dev. It will port them over to live. You'll also be asked on the right here is these unresolved dependencies, because that's where you need to tell it that there's an equivalent. So obviously a dev admin account is not going to exist in live. So you click on resolve and you pick the equivalent from live. So the equivalent from live would obviously be the live admin account. And again, the templates dev dummy account, I would do the same there. That's actually just for the template job we've got. And the dev Hyderabad queue, I would tell it the live Hyderabad queue. So that would then resolve them. Once I've done all that, I can then say synchronize. It will just double check with me. This is all the information that you want to add to your target. I'll say yes, it is. And it will go through there. It will give you a little status down in the bottom here. And then it will import from one to the other. So it's a really neat way of really controlling and having a better control over live, because the last thing we want to happen is that, you know, content gets removed from live, or it just inadvertently someone, you know, sort of stumbles across someone else's job. So that prevents that kind of thing happening. And you can see here now that it's moved over that content into live. Okay, and so if we go back to our environments here, just have to wait for it to connect to live. Okay, so we've now connected to live. Live has the same structure as dev. So if we just expand here, we can now see in the admin folder, I've now got my Active Batch job, which is a copy of what I've got in dev, but in the live environment. One other thing to be careful of is that, of course, because this is a new object in Active Batch, it will have a new ID. So you'll need to then go back and change your desktop jobs to reference the live ID, so the live object ID. So here 312.7501. So that's, you know, the URL that's in your Active Batch job. So here, just update it. and then that's the version that you can ask your production teams to use on any of those extractions that want to use that Active Batch template plan. Okay, so that's the main part of the demo complete. There was just a couple of other smaller things which I wanted to point out. There is the ability to trigger Active Batch jobs outside of DexTap. It doesn't have to come from a DexTap extraction, and we can certainly help you understand more of that outside of this session. There's an API, an Active Batch API. There's an Active Batch web service. The jobs themselves, they come with some really good scheduling options, so you can schedule jobs to run any time of day, or all based on calendars. I mean, obviously anything coming out of DexTap will still be dependent on the existing scheduling within DexTap, but outside of that, you've got full control within Active Batch. There's also some really good facilities within the Active Batch GUI for people who are, specifically our support and our technology teams, who are keeping a watch on all the activity. There's some views which show you everything that's going on at any time. It enables people to monitor queues and assess sort of traffic, and also give them a quick read on any potential issues. So there's some more there. There is also, as I mentioned, there's a lot of functionality which we've not really even begin using within Active Batch, and it's something that we'll definitely see growing. So if you remember, a job is made up of a series of job steps, and for the dimensions templates, I'm using some file management job steps. I'm using some flow type job steps. I'm also using the ability to execute a shell command. And also we're using the emailing functionality, but there's a whole list of over here. There's a whole list of things that are available. There are full documentation manuals out there for Active Batch, and there is a growing community. We've recently also set up a Teams channel for Active Batch champions, and the idea is we use that channel to share information going forward. Okay, so that's the end of the session. I hope you found this useful, and I hope that's something you'll be able to use these details to get started in Active Batch. Please reach out to myself, Trevor Whitaker, for any help, any questions you might have. Also point out we do have Active Batch supported within our regular Freshdesk support system. So there is a team in the support team who have been trained and are knowledgeable about Active Batch and can help with queries as well. So that's it. So thanks very much for watching, and best of luck. Thank you.